Doctor, we have an emergency. We really need your help.
What is it this time? Rattling stabs? Unmoved switches?
No, doctor, I'm afraid it's way worse. It's a Razer.
I'm sorry, nurse, that's way out of my league.
But there's no one else. If you don't help, this Razer will die of terribleness.
Then we have no time to waste. Ready the operating room, I will do everything I can. Wow. It's dead. I'm afraid it's really hard to un-Razer a Razer.
I'm afraid it's your lucky day, doctor. Another Razer came in today.
Welcome back to the channel, guys. This is Scott K. After what it seems like maybe close to a decade, I have finally decided to take a look at a Razer keyboard. Reluctantly at first. Because honestly, my memories of Razer keyboards from like the way past are kind of like this. Expensive keyboards that are very gamer centric, and this one right here, it's membrane. But after like holding out for like a year, I have finally agreed to take a look at the latest Razer Blackwidow V4. And you know what? I was wrong. This time Razer actually made a decent keyboard that like straddles that gray space, right? In between the gaming and the custom keyboards. Yes, this video is sponsored by Razer, but I only agreed to take a look at this keyboard on the pretense that I can rip it all apart and do as I wish with it, and be as truthful as possible. All of the opinions are of my own and have not been influenced by Razer whatsoever. So, I performed some surgery on this Blackwidow V4. How did it turn out? Now, did I get your attention? Even I still can't believe that's a sound from a Razer keyboard. A Razer of all keyboards. I dubbed it the Razer Blackwidow V4, the Balls of Steel edition. Why? That's what you're gonna find out today. So the Razer Blackwidow V4 75% is actually Razer's first stab at creating a custom keyboard. From what I understand, they did a lot of research and like they referenced a lot of keyboard modders, watched their YouTube channels, including myself, apparently. What came out of all of that was actually a decent first attempt at a crossover between like a gaming keyboard and a custom mechanical keyboard. All for the price of like $189.99 for the black one, or in this one, $199.99 for the white one. Yes, in my opinion, the price is a bit on the high side, and I wish it could be about $50 cheaper maybe. So what is this thing all about? Well, for starters, it's a 75% keyboard to allow for like ample space for the mouse. It features two functional buttons here, as well as a rocker for the volume. These can actually be programmed to something else as well through the Razer software. Yes, no QMK or VIA for this keyboard, but that's not really what we're expecting for a keyboard of this class, right? The Blackwidow V4 features a partial aluminum construction. It's actually aluminum on the top and ABS plastic on the bottom, which I was hoping it would be like full aluminum since this thing is not wireless. So the gamers could take full advantage of its crazy high 8,000 Hz polling rate. You heard that right. Before we do anything, let me show you a quick clip of the stock sound. I think out of everything, that is what surprised me the most. The Blackwidow V4 actually sounds pretty good out of the box, right? Probably better than any other gaming keyboard out there in like stock form. Like, I mean, the stuff you could buy at the stores. It's deep and thocky. Maybe a little bit plastic, a little less refined than like a good custom, but man, better than any other Razer out there, hands down. Other than the sound, what I also noticed is that this is actually a gasket mounted Razer, which means it does have ability to flex a little bit. It's kind of on the stiffer end. I'm kind of wondering why it feels like that, but you know what? That's something I think I feel I could fix. But going back to the sound, let's figure out what's causing it to make it sound pretty good. So for starters, The Blackwidow V4, it comes with OEM profile, not cherry, ABS double shot keycaps with shine through letters. I mean, yeah, it's for that gamer RGB vibe, right? Which in my opinion, it does a pretty good job here. This, good execution, at least in this format. It's smooth, it's very bright in the white version at least, right? It even has side accent lighting, which does add a very premium touch to it. If you have other Razer products, you could also sync the LED colors together, I think with Synapse. The keycaps are nothing really to write home about, but they're decent and feel pretty nice overall. They don't feel very cheap or anything like that, which is good. Underneath it all, you have Razer's orange tactile switches with light diffusers. Honestly, the orange tactiles are surprisingly good. They come pre-lubed and the tactility on these are pretty legit to say the least. Slight disappointment is in the fact that they decided to go north facing on this keyboard, but I guess I get it, right? This is a Razer after all, and gamer RGB is very important. But many switches work fine now with north facing cherry keycaps, so it's less of a deal now than it was some years ago. Here, I also run into another surprise. Yes, this thing is hot swappable. I know that's like commonplace in like the custom mechanical space, but not in gaming keyboards. So hey, good job Razer on that. If you want, you could also grab a set of Razer's silent yellow linears, which are not really silent, or their clicky green switches, which also aren't that clicky. Out of the three, in my opinion, the orange tactiles that come with the keyboards, they're the best choice. You don't have to get the other ones if you don't want to. Before we tear this thing apart though, the Blackwidow does come with the wrist rest included, which is covered in soft leatherette, and actually it's magnetic and custom made to this keyboard, so it kind of like sticks to it. Alright, let's tear this baby apart to see what's going on inside. So with the switches removed, you get a better look at the plate, which is actually a white FR4 in this case. Kind of like a legit custom keyboard, right? You can also see the gaskets in action better when you remove everything. So you kind of see here it does have some flex, but once again, somewhat on the stiffer side. So that's something that I'm gonna take a look at. Kind of expected, but the Blackwidow does feature plate-mounted stabilizers. We've seen a lot of this recently. They're solid, but they're not PCB mounted. I wonder if you could also update this or upgrade this to a PCB mounted one. I half expected this thing to be like held by some plastic clip that's gonna break apart when I take it apart. Then I realized that it's actually just held by 6 screws and the whole thing just comes apart super easy. Very easy to just mod. But Razer does put a huge warning that if you do take it apart, you're going to void your warranty. They even put like this waxy stuff on the screw to make sure that if you did take it apart, they will know. Interesting. When you do take it apart though, you can see the aluminum frame on the top. And holy gaskets, these have to be like the longest gaskets I've ever seen on a keyboard. Also now I know why this keyboard feels stiff. It's because there's too much gasket, it's putting too much resistance there. We will try to fix this. With the plate assembly removed also, you can see why the Blackwidow actually sounds pretty good. Below the PCB, they actually put a tape mount on here. It's apparently a fire retardant material, so it's not really like a masking tape, but it's definitely helping to amp up the sound. In addition, when you look below, you can see the case foam as well. But the case foam is like really lightweight. I'm not really sure if this even does anything down there. We will fix that too. If you separate the plate from the PCB, you can also see that Razer placed a nice heavier plate foam right in the middle. But what's this? It's super interesting that Razer decided not to use PE foam or any of these sound modifier sheets in between. I'm super surprised that Blackwidow actually sounds this good without it. With everything taken apart though, you can actually see the PCB now in more detail. Obviously the KO style hot swap sockets, and what's this? Yes, you can upgrade the steps to a PCB mount. Good job Razer. Okay, so that pretty much shows off what this keyboard is all about in stock form. But how do we turn it into this? And why is it balls of steel? That's what I'm gonna show you now. Let's tackle some of the things I felt could be improved. So first of all, the lower case is very, very light. It's like a really lightweight ABS plastic. While the Blackwidow does sound good, it does sound kind of like a plastic keyboard, The filler inside really doesn't do much either to kind of help with that. So we will fix that like this. Yes, do you remember this? This is silicone mold. You mix these two together and it hardens and turns into like a stiffer silicone. I'm going to fill the bottom of this keyboard with this to help dampen that plastic sound, increase the weight a little bit, which in turn will deepen the tone also. But wait, is silicone enough? No, it's not here especially. That's where this comes into play. Yes, steel balls. These are 1mm stainless steel bearings. I'm using around 50,000 of them, about half a pound. I decided to embed these steel balls into the silicone mix into the lower case, which will help increase the overall weight of the lower case much more. If you recall what I did before with an Kinetic board, ramping up the weight of the plastic bottom really helped to improve the tone and remove some of that plasticky sound. We are definitely taking it one step further with this one. Once everything kind of hardens, I essentially created a steel weight insert for the Blackwidow. Yeah, balls of steel. Now you get it? Like they're balls and they're made of steel, so never mind. Moving on, the stiffness of the gaskets. When there is that much gasket, there's also a lot of push back when you're like pushing this thing down. So what I decided to do was remove some of it. It's as simple as that. It will help to soften up the feel of the keyboard a little bit more. Finally, move on to the components. While the stock components are perfectly fine, right? You heard the stock sound. I want them to be more than fine. I want them to be good. So I removed the plate mounted stabs and I upgraded them to some PCB mounted stabs. Then for the switches, while the orange switches are great, I typically prefer linears. So I wanted a smooth, nice linear on there as well. So I decided to grab a set of hand lubed Silyworks Hyacinth switches. Finally, I put everything back together and put on a set of Polycaps Octopus PBT keycaps in cherry profile, because thick PBT does sound better than thin ABS, and I much prefer cherry profile over OEM also. So here's the result. In my opinion, this looks so much more standout. It does lose a little bit of that gamer RGB since like the keycaps are not shine through anymore, and the switches also don't have that diffuser, but honestly, I don't care too much about RGB, so it's fine for me. What about the feel? Removing a good portion of the gasket does help to soften the overall feel pretty good amount. And now you can see that the keyboard is able to bounce. It's still bouncing the same amount, but it's easier to bounce that way. I know you got like a glimpse of it in the beginning, but what about the sound? Let's check out the full typing test now. So what do you think? I'm still kind of shocked that this is the sound coming from a Razer keyboard with like no PE foam or PET sheet or anything like that. Wild. Probably the best sounding Razer keyboard in existence. I seriously think that this sounds and feels better than some legit custom keyboards out there right now. And that's kind of crazy. So after all this, what is my final thought? The Razer Blackwidow V4 truly is the first Razer keyboard that made me think, this one is actually worth considering. If someone was gonna buy it, I was gonna be like, whoa, no. No, I'm not gonna do that with this one. While not perfect, it does offer a great typing experience, great typing sound, and strong gaming features like 8,000 Hz polling rate, macro recording on the fly button here. On top of that, it's very customizable as I have demonstrated. You're gonna void the warranty though if you do what I did. Now, I know you guys are gonna ask, this thing or the ROG Azoth? Well, that's up to you. The Azoth is more money, but it does come with wireless and a little OLED screen. What it does lose is that insane polling rate, and like the stock typing sound and feel, in my opinion, is better on the Razer, unless you're gonna mount the Azoth too. What about a Wooting then? Well, that's in a different class with its, Hall effect switch. And while great for gaming, Hall effect switch keyboards, they don't sound good at all. At least now. So depending on how adventurous you are or what you find more important, the choice is up to you. I do wish though the Blackwidow was maybe like $50 cheaper. Then I would honestly be like thinking that it's a great option at a good price with great potential, especially if you're focusing on gaming. So that's up to you guys. As usual, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and I'll have more content for you in the future. Thanks.